EGM Network.
Hi, welcome to Silver Linings. I'm one of your hosts, Janine Barrows, and
I'm Raul Perez.
he is our other host. And today we get the pleasure of having Randy Riley with us in the studio. And Randy is the manager of the Guardianship Program that is run through Senior Resource Association here locally. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Janine.
I know your time is limited and you work with people every single day in our community. And many of our community members do know you, but could you give our audience a bit of background on what brought you into this role today?
It's been a long traveled road. I actually moved to Vero in 1989, so I've been here quite a while.
Yeah.
I spent 47 years as a banker. And then when I retired in 2017, I got bored and needed to do something, and we ended up creating an organization called Senior Collaborative, which connected seniors with providers.
Right.
And I did that for 5 years, and then that rolled into my being involved with Senior Resource Association, and I've been the Guardianship Manager for the last 2 years with them.
So like all good things, when we see it, it tends to get involved and enveloped in some of those other really great things going on in the community, give strength to each other and bring them on board. I know that both you and Raul get to see the process of guardianship up close and personal due to what you do and who you interface with on a daily basis. Can you explain a little bit about what your role is at the Guardianship Program and how that program impacts our community?
Okay. Let's talk about the program. And actually, we have two programs. One is the Public Guardianship Program, which is the majority of what we do, and probably what we'll talk about more today. And then there is a professional program that we do. The public program is for indigent individuals who do not have family members or friends that are willing to be guardian. So we take the role of the family or people close to them, these are also people with very limited incomes. Most of them are Medicaid.
Okay, and this is the public guardianship program.
This is public, yeah.
Okay.
And I guess to go off that, how do people normally reach out to you in these situations so that you can become involved with the guardianship at that point?
Yeah, what are scenarios in which they, why would somebody reach out for a guardianship and how do they do that?
Well, in most cases, it's they're aware of some issue where they don't feel the individual is capable of taking care of themselves. They're trying to protect them. We get a lot of referrals from the hospital because they cannot do a discharge of a patient unless they have a safe place to discharge them.
Yeah.
So we fill in that role in a lot of instances to make sure that the individual will be taken care of once they leave the hospital.
All right, so we got you off track a little bit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I know you were talking about the two types. So you were just talking about the public type and how those individuals come to you in various forms, as I was just saying, and obviously for reasons that are based on their capability of remaining autonomous safely, right? Sometimes that's about finances, sometimes about clinical needs, sometimes it's just personal safety, right?
There's a broad range of guardianship that goes from what we call plenary, where we basically do everything for the individual, oversight of the person, oversight of the finances,
So that's
And
like almost a complete
that's,
oversight care for
yes,
them. Okay.
that would, and then there's limited guardianships, either person,
Specific areas?
or property, and that's actually determined by the court.
Mm-hmm.
So it maybe we should talk a little bit about the process.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's easy to get off
it's
topic on this one because it just one comment leads to another question, so it's deep.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It usually starts with we would get a referral of for a person. At that point, they're called an alleged incapacitated person.
Okay.
And then we do our analysis of it. We would meet with the individual. If we feel that guardianship is appropriate, and we take that role very seriously because you are taking away a person's rights in the process of doing it. You take over the rights that that person loses in making those decisions.
There's a lot of pressure, I'm sure.
So as we go through the process, we would initially petition. After we do our review, we would petition for guardianship. It then goes through a court process, which takes approximately 3 months. And part of that process is they would be reviewed by an examination committee. The examination committee consists of 3 people. One of them has to be a psychiatrist or a physician.
Okay, so they need to have a clinical input stating.
And all of those individuals are specifically trained to be exam committee members. There's a process that they go through that.
Well,
and
that's nice to know.
That goes to the court, and then the judge makes a determination on capacity. And if the alleged incapacitated person is deemed to be to not have capacity, then they would appoint a guardian.
Okay, and that's kind of where the Guardianship Program and Senior Resource Association starts really kind of playing a big role, I imagine, then in the lives of those as you were telling me earlier, wards, right?
Right. And so once it gets to that stage where the rights are taken away, and the Senior Resource Center is appointed as their guardian, how many guardians does the Senior Resource Center have to help with these cases?
As public guardian, we are funded by the state, and we are currently approved for 43 wards through the state.
Wow. And how many wards? I imagine that there are many people that families and doctors have asked for special evaluations, like come and assess right away. It could be a while if you've got only 43 spaces. That sounds like a lot, but at the same time, not very many.
We periodically have waiting lists. Right now, we're fine. We have some spots remaining, but normally we have had waiting lists in the past.
All right. And I wanted to ask, what counties, what areas does your program serve and oversight?
Okay. Public guardians are throughout the state.
Okay.
There's a public guardian in every county.
All right.
So we are currently serving Indian River and St. Lucie. But there's another 16 public guardians out there that are serving the rest of the county.
All right, but you all are an organized entity working together along with other industry service providers, actively making strides for your client base. So I've heard that it's really expensive to get a guardianship put into place. Well, what kind of cost is the average individual look at, or even a program like yours at that?
We're funded by
individual.
we're funded by the state to take care of indigent individuals. So there is no cost to there is no cost to the family or individual as long as we can make sure that the alleged incapacitated person is under income limits and under asset limits. So,
and if they weren't, is there a sliding scale, or is it like you have to hit a
there's
number?
really not. It's sort of an all or nothing as far as being indigent.
Every
which
program
is,
has some kind of limitations.
Yeah,
We
the
can't.
number is 200% of the poverty level. So.
And as far as your question, Janine, regarding, what are the costs? I mean, it could range in a wide variety of ways, but normally the guardianship itself requires 2 different cases being filed, and the 3 committee members themselves have to be paid. So that in itself is about $1,000 to $1,500. So just in cost, you're looking at about $2,000, $2,500, and that's not taking into account the attorney's time.
The attorneys, and it's not just one attorney involved, it's a few, right?
It's at least 1 to represent the person who's petitioning, and then 1 to represent the ward.
The ward. Oh my gosh, I know that we could go left and right here in this conversation really quickly as we started to skid off track earlier. But before we go any deeper, can we take a little break? I just want to go to our commercial sponsors. You and I both, that we need them and we love them and we're grateful for them. So we want to take just a moment, if you don't mind, Randy. We'll come right back to it. We'll be right back. Thank you.
My name is Mike Conway, and I'm with Royal Fund Management. We want to revolutionize your workplace retirement system. The recent Secure Act 2.0 legislation has opened the door for pooled employer plans, better known as PEPs. Learn how a PEP can revolutionize your 401k. Call me, Mike Conway, today. I'll give you a free benchmark of your current plan or set up a new plan. Visit SecureAct2info.com. That's SecureAct, the number 2, info.com.
Investment advisor representative of investment services offered through Royal Fund Management LLC, an SEC registered advisor. 401k maneuvers and other business for Royal Fund Management.
Party on, America! It's the Main Street Downtown Patriotic Party, presented by GHO Homes. Pop on over to downtown Vero Beach for a free street party with live music by Reckless Shots, plus kids games, beer, food trucks, and prizes. Be ready to dance from 6 to 9. Admissions as free as America. Sponsored by GHO Homes, Mangrove Sands Golf Club and Restaurant, and Formula One of Vero Beach. The Downtown Patriotic Party, a Main Street Vero Beach event, Friday, May 30th at 6 p.m. in downtown Vero Beach.
See, that was painless, I promise you. And we're so grateful for our commercial sponsors. We're also want to say a shout out of thanks to our show sponsors. So the team over at Dill Evans and Rhoda Back and Sebastian, they've been in our community for over 25 years. If you have any legal questions for them that involve your family or your real estate planning or your trust planning, please don't hesitate, reach out to them. We're grateful for their support. On that note, we were talking for a few minutes before with Randy Riley, who is the manager of the Guardianship Program at Senior Resource Association here in Indian River County. Raul was just kind of breaking down a bit of cost before we went to commercial break. And he was saying, you can guesstimate maybe $1,500 per person, $2,000. And that cost is specific to what?
So what I was referring to is just the startup cost in guardianship cases.
Just filing the initial paperwork.
Just filing the paperwork by itself. If obviously if there's not circumstances of indigency, normally it's $400 a case. When you do a guardianship, you're going to be doing it in capacity as well. So that off the bat, we're talking about $800. And then the committee members, each of them has a different range of what they cost, but normally it's $300, $325, and then doctors I have seen up to $650. So that by itself,
it starts growing really quickly,
right?
Which explains why there's such a need for a group just like yours that gets, as you're saying, the state funding and grantships that you get allocated to individuals based on their needs as they come to your door, right? So now that leads to a question of how long do you get the ability to help people? How long do you get to service somebody? What kind of limitations alter that time frame?
Once you are appointed guardian, you remain the guardian until either the person is deemed to have capacity, a successor guardian is appointed to take over the case for you, or the individual passes away.
You just said something that kind of piqued my interest. I'm just listening. You said unless they regain capacity, that happens, right?
It does happen on occasion.
It does. Maybe there are
More in
supporting scenarios
yeah.
that put them in a frail position.
Especially when you have cases where you have limited duties.
Okay.
It's
Just
possible that, and we've seen cases where may have started out being plenary, or we're doing both person and property, and all of a sudden they're deemed to have capability to make personal decisions.
Okay. All right. So it can change, you know, one way or the other. But
part of the process we go through is we do an annual report, and we're monitored very closely by the Office of Public and Professional Guardianship, which is under Department of Elder Affairs, and then also locally by the clerk's office as far as the reports that we submit. But part of doing the reporting is there is an annual report we file, and prior to that report being filed, there's a medical exam that occurs every year. And one of the questions that's always asked is this person capable of regaining capacity?
Sure, you need some preemptive planning opportunity. But it's amazing that this program exists because it can be costly, but it's feasible. And often it's much more privately addressed. People are very nervous to seek out assistance when they're maybe looking for these type of services. Right? This is a very personal situation. Often this involves an inability to remain independent. Maybe it's a competency issue. Maybe it's a safety issue. Maybe it's a poor financial utilization issue. You know, there's all kinds of scenarios, but it usually is problematic in its base. And so to have groups, both public and private, and working in our court system to assist our community members that need it is great, because there are communities that might have it on a private level, but they don't have a lot of options professionally to them personally. You know, they might be able to walk into an attorney's office and maybe their wallet allots for it and they want those services, but not every community has a group like yours. They might have a public guardian, but not a guardianship program, right?
No, well, each county does have a public guardianship program.
They all have a full program. Oh gosh, that's such that's a gift. I didn't know that. I was thinking it was something just solely.
Yeah, it's monitored. There's public guardians
learning
that do
things every day. Learning things every day.
Multiple counties. We happen to do Indian River and St. Lucie, but there is a public guardian in every county.
All right.
Now, you were mentioning that on a yearly time frame, the guardians have to file an annual report.
Yes.
That's not the only time that the guardians interact with the wards, correct?
We're required to meet with our wards on a quarterly basis. That's statute. I will, however, tell you that we meet a minimum of monthly with all of our wards.
And that's a great benefit to them because, you know, the guardians are keeping up to date with the needs of the ward, which is always a benefit if anything changes or if things need to change, that they can be involved and have hands-on with medical staff or whoever, you know, needs to be there for the ward. So that's great.
And we're always available. So if if someone falls or has to go to the hospital, we're automatically notified of that, and we would be involved in making decisions regarding care.
Swift care response. I love that.
Now, I had a follow-up question. I mean, obviously, you work with the Senior Resource Association, but are there situations where you helped people who are not seniors, possibly minors, because there are minor guardianships?
We do not do minors. We do have younger wards, mainly coming through APD with disability.
Okay.
These would be wards that have become over 18,
But they could surely
aged
be
out of the minor program.
So
And we do get appointed with some of those.
and those are what we typically call guardian advocacies.
Yes.
Okay, great. That's great that you can also help the younger community
Yeah, it's not
with their
just a
needs.
stipulation of 65 or older. That is great to know, and there are a lot of groups and entities that are hands off at a specific age. So,
We work very closely with ARC with a number of those.
Nice. I love that. So today our show is short. What is something you want to drive home to our audience that's important for you to share with our community?
We're here to help. It's a resource that is probably underutilized to some degree. We've tried to grow the program over the last. We've been a public senior resource has been a public guardian for the last 7 years.
Okay, wow, that's a
So
long time.
it was actually a program that was started by a number of people locally.
Nice.
And about 2 years into the process, senior resource ended up taking it over.
Absorbing, yeah. And so now you're out there serving the community. You have at least 43 spots that are available for those people who might need that resource, and with those individuals that are watching and they might be having problematic episodes in their environments or the environments of somebody they love. What would they need to know, and how would they reach out to you?
They can call us. Our number is 772-569-0760. They can also go to our website, which is seniorresourceassociation.org. And there is a specific page, if they go under services, that says guardianship.
Okay.
And on the bottom of that page is actually a referral form where they can complete the referral form, and
All right.
we can look at for us to go to the next step.
So have some information in hand before that initial contact. That's always really important. You know, you're talking about really sensitive, personal, private topics, concerns, future processes. You build a personal rapport. You know, as Raul was saying, you're obviously seeing them more than once a year. You're interfacing with them and maybe their family members who are not guardian, but still potentially involved, right? Individuals who care about them.
If there is a family or family member or friend close to them, they are more than welcome to be part of the decision process.
Nice. I love that.
So
you're not really giving up your rights. You're just accepting that help in a legal matter, because when we ask somebody to go represent us at the hospital or with our credit card company or the mortgage company, we need to have it legal. So a lot of people can truly benefit from having services with guardianships put in place for themselves and their families. I'm so grateful for what you do in our community, and Raul as well. You know, when we're going through that process, it's hard. There's a lot of emotions involved. It's not always easy, and it's not always people willing to be compliant in a process that maybe they weren't so comfortable with to begin with. But in the end, we end up with scenarios and families and situations where the bills are paid, they're attending their clinical, they're taking their medications, they're receiving the care and love that they need so they can be most vibrant and bloom where they're at, right? And you can't beat that.
yes.
You can't beat people who care about people. So,
Well, and it's great that we have a service in the community who can help out those individuals who are less fortunate, and their families and friends can turn to the public guardianship system to get them assistance.
all hope is not lost. Thank you so very much, Randy. We are grateful for your time and for your information and all that you do over in the Guardianship.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next week.